Hey everyone, maybe you heard of Acts 29 Sunday, or maybe you haven't. Every year, our church at Edgewater Alliance takes one Sunday where we invite you and the community to join us down at the Winn-Dixie in Edgewater to pack the pantries. We want to fill it up for this upcoming holiday season. So we invite you to join us as we pack the pantries. Let's go.
Thank you for participating with us as we help stock the food pantries in our community and serve others well. That's how you do it. All right, EAC. Well, we are getting ready for one of our favorite services of the year. It's the Pack the Pantries event, also known as Acts 29. And if you didn't catch it from the video, it's really cool. We don't gather here. We go and we meet at the Winn-Dixie in Edgewater, and we just try to generously bless our community by stocking the food pantries with groceries. And one of the things that I want to lay before you to consider is not only to participate in that event, but be generous, but also to bring a friend. And hear me out. You might first sound like this is probably not the best event to invite a friend. I think it's one of the best events to invite a friend to, because you and I probably have people in our lives that we love and that we care about, and they might not be ready yet to do this. They might not be ready in their faith journey to come to a service like this one where we sing and where we study, but they would probably be down to help serve the community and serve the poor. And it could give them a really cool front row seat to see the church doing some really beautiful stuff. And so it could really change their perspective. And so in the lobby, and probably as you leave, there are these cards available. Take one and consider who you might invite to this event, all right? And then to piggyback off the announcements that were made earlier, following the service today, we have a quarterly event called Taste of EAC. I was told that the garlic is gonna start wafting into, we might start smelling garlic. That's to entice you to a meeting following the service today, not actually, but we have for anybody who's new or feels new to Edgewater Alliance Church. So maybe you're new this morning, you're welcome. Maybe you've been here for a year, but EAC still feels new to you. We do a really informal lunch upstairs right after second service today. Free, kids are welcome, really kind of an organic short lunch to just meet you, greet you, share a little bit of information about the church, and answer any questions you might have. So please come and join us for that event. But if you are new to EAC, maybe this is your first Sunday or you're still kind of getting the hang of it, I want to welcome you. We are glad that you're here. We have been in a series entitled Words of Wisdom, where we're looking at specific topics, major themes in the book of Proverbs. And what we often do here at Edgewater Alliance Church is we'll pick a book and we'll just kind of journey through it chronologically. And so we've gone through the book of James this year and we went through every word of James. And then we went through Jonah and we went through every word in the book of Jonah. But Proverbs is a little bit different. So for those of you who've been journeying with us, how many of you have been reading Proverbs? Show of hands. How many of you have been reading? Pretty good. Anybody finished it yet? Show of hands. Anybody finished it? All right, we still got work to do, but we're journeying through it. And what you'll find is in the book of Proverbs, right around chapter 10, there is this pivot. It might actually be chapter 10, where you start to experience what I think I've heard somebody reference this as like the Old Testament version of Twitter, where you're getting these lines, these sort of powerful statements about a variety of different topics. They're kind of great verses to stick on your fridge or on a coffee cup. They're kind of these two-liners or one-liners that really speak to a truth. And what then you kind of have to do is gather the information from various chapters if you're going to preach on it. And so that's why this series is a little bit different, because we're going to be looking at major themes in the book of Proverbs. And Proverbs has very applicable, specific truths that, and catch this part, stand in contradiction to how some see spirituality. How some see spirituality. And I think the Church of Jesus, and by that I mean broadly, like people who follow Jesus, that our spirituality and how we incorporate our spirituality is to look very different from how other people do. And here is what I would submit to you would be a very kind of common approach to spirituality in the West. And that is that there is a line between our spiritual life, or what people would call our spiritual lives, and our real lives, that they are distinct, that they are separate, that they are different. And so people will function this way. They'll be like, this is my spiritual life, and these are the spiritual beliefs that I have, and they matter to me. It's not even to dismiss the spiritualness of people. There are a lot of people who are like, I'm spiritual, they matter to me, but it's private. They're sort of mine. They exist a lot of times in the realm of belief and ethics, but there's a lot of ways in which the spiritual life is fragmented or compartmentalized away from what people would call real life. By real life, we're meaning the things that we experience tangibly and that we show up and do every day. So our real life would include our work and how we raise our kids and our sexuality and how we manage money and how we engage in friendships and all of these things that people would say real life, and how we pay our bills. But this is not the understanding that we find in the Bible. In the Bible, what we find is this is a far more accurate representation of the worldview that believers are supposed to have, and it's just life. Spirit and flesh, one in the same thing, that there are not things that are compartmentalized off of our spiritual lives, but that our spiritual lives and what people would call real life, that those are actually one and the same, and they're supposed to be seen together and dealt with together. And so our financial lives, they're not separate and distinct from our spiritual lives. Our sexual lives are not separate and distinct from our spiritual lives. How we do marriage and how we raise kids and how we do friendship and how we do singleness, all of this is part of life that is also very spiritual. It's this integrated worldview where we say we don't just put our spiritual beliefs in a box, but that it is all connected, it is all one. And today we are talking about a very important subject that on the get-go might not sound very spiritual, but the Bible has a lot to say about it, reinforcing this idea. And Proverbs does this again and again. You'll see it where we go next, because next is biblical sexuality. And then we're talking about parents and children dynamics, that kind of thing. And you'll see, reinforcing this idea that we just talked about, that there's not a distinction. The Bible talks a lot about money, and so we are going to go there this morning. And money, it's a little bit of a fun introduction because money can feel like a very controversial and confusing subject even to Christians. So if you're in the room and you're not a follower of Jesus yet, I just want you to know that you're welcome and we are glad you're here. We hope you just feel really welcome and that you learn. We would love for you to come to faith in Jesus, but we just want you to be present and move at your own pace. But we're gonna show our cards a little bit this morning and let you know that even within Christianity, there is a vast array of how people understand, perceive, and think money ought to be used. And so even among Christians, this is a very kind of controversial subject. And so we can diagnose this by asking some questions. Is money good or is it bad? Is it helpful to the Christian journey or is it harmful? In the Old Testament, we read this story of King Solomon. And King Solomon is given this incredible opportunity to ask God for anything that he wants. So God is prepared to give Solomon a response to a request that he's prepared to give him exactly what he asks for. And do you remember what Solomon asks for? He asks for wisdom. But do you remember what God also gives him? What was it? Wealth. Great wealth. God is so pleased by Solomon's reply that Solomon is asking for something of greater value than money, that Solomon's priorities seem to be right. Solomon's like, hey, I'm not prepared to lead your people. I'm not wise enough to do this. God, what I want from you more than anything else is the wisdom to lead well. And God's like, Solomon, you got it. And not only are you getting wisdom, and Solomon, the text would tell us, would be the wisest person on the face of the earth. Not only is he gonna get wisdom from God, but God is so pleased with Solomon's reply that he also goes, and in addition to that, I am giving you great wealth. And Solomon, ladies and gentlemen, is loaded, crazy rich. And we look at that and we're like, okay, like God just gave wealth to Solomon as a gift. And then we get to the New Testament, right? We get to the New Testament and Jesus, who we believe is the Son of God, who came, took on flesh, revealed the heart of the Father to us. He has a specific conversation with an individual. You remember this, the rich young ruler. Many of you know the story. And the rich young ruler, this guy's loaded too. I mean, he's not Solomon loaded, but he's loaded. And he's talking to Jesus and he's like, hey, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And they have a conversation about this. And then in the context of that specific conversation with this specific individual, Jesus goes, okay, there's one thing you lack. You need to sell everything that you have and give the money to the poor. So God, what gives? Are you giving us a ton of money that we're supposed to enjoy? Or are we supposed to give it all away? Like, Jesus, what are we supposed to do with our money? And then within Christianity, we have sort of these different camps, right? We have these different camps and each of them have their scriptures. And it's this idea of, okay, well, different beliefs on money. So we have what's been called poverty theology. And poverty theology really is this sort of idea of, if we're gonna really follow Jesus, legitimately, the best thing you can do is to basically intentionally accept a life of poverty, that you will walk a path of poverty. And they would say, really, this is the path of Jesus, that Jesus walked a path of poverty. And you're probably going to eliminate a lot of distractions and temptations if you just say, you know what? I'm gonna forsake worldly possessions and I'm gonna be poor and I'm gonna follow follow Jesus. So that's one camp. And then over here, raise your hand if you've heard of prosperity theology. Anybody heard that term? Oh, there's some groaning. Okay, so that's good. I like that. Prosperity theology is basically this. Hey, if you're a really good Christian and you're really following Jesus, well, God is going to bless you with wealth and abundance. So if you're really doing Christianity right, you're going to be rich. And so you have people like, if you're really doing Christianity right, you're going to be poor. If you're really doing Christianity right, you're going to be rich. And then you have people sort of who are not spiritualizing prosperity theology, and they seem like they have their head on a little more tight, but they're also saying some things that can add to the discussion and add confusion, because now there's the three spectrums, and so this is the perspective of like, hey, it's sinful to be in debt, or at least you definitely shouldn't be in debt. And then as popularized by a prominent radio show hosted by a professing Christian, it's this idea of, look, if you're really trying to honor God and live a life of sort of integrity and wisdom, well, you should pursue becoming an everyday millionaire in the name of Jesus. And here's all the steps that you can take to have financial security and to one day be a millionaire. And so we're just left kind of maybe scratching our heads like, God, what am I supposed to do with money? Because we don't seem like we have very good answers, and we have sort of these fringe spectrum answers, and people are saying different things in the name of Jesus. And I want you to know that there is complexity as it relates to this subject of money that we will not deal with today. I got like 20 more minutes to go, okay? So here's what I'm hoping to achieve though. I'm hoping to achieve some things from a biblical perspective. That's where I'm coming from, primarily through the lens of Proverbs, of saying, these are some things that I think we as followers of Jesus can rest on as bedrock to build up from. And there are some ways that you're gonna have to figure out technically, practically, how they apply, but we can at least all agree here on these foundational things. I'm gonna give you 3 of them. Each of them we're going to build to from the text. Does that sound fair? All right, so here we go. We're gonna jump into the text. Oh, before we jump into the text, these are the questions that if you're like, what questions are we seeking to answer? These are them, okay? You might wanna write these down. As followers of Jesus, are we supposed to pursue wealth or not? And if so, how are we to pursue it, and what are we supposed to do with it if we get it? Fair? Here we go. Proverbs 10:4. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Second verse, Proverbs 12:11. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. The final verse for this first point, Proverbs 13:11. Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little will make it grow. The first thing that I want to present to you is this idea that money matters. The Bible talks about it a lot. And if you noticed from the passages we just read, and we could go to others, that money is not, as in these passages, demonized in the scriptures. So any sort of theology that would say we need to have nothing to do with money would be a radical and off-base theology. But there's these qualifiers that are present, and I think fairly obvious, even in the book of Proverbs, that money matters, it's important, but we're to work hard for it, we're to be wise with it, and we're to pursue it with integrity. Now, when I say money matters, I don't mean necessarily intrinsically it matters a lot, but there's a lot of things that you and I should do, get to do, would be good for us to do with money, and without it, those things would not be possible or as possible. So there's lots of good things you can do. You can move out of your parents' basement with money. You can do that. Students, you can do that. And then you can go to college and get an education with money. You can host a dinner party for your neighbors with money. You can go on a 10-year wedding anniversary trip with your spouse with money. You can go down to Winn-Dixie next Sunday and collectively spend over $30,000 on groceries to feed people in our community with money. Money matters. And it's funny because it feels like even Christians who are like, it doesn't matter, and then they'll be like, will you support my ministry? It's like, what? You know what I mean? So it's like clearly, money matters. And we don't want to go so far off in this direction where we're saying things that the Bible doesn't say. Because the impression that I get is it's noble and right to work hard for it. But then once we get it, there is a responsibility we have to be wise with it. And then we are to pursue it with integrity. Now, here's what Proverbs does. And I actually kind of like this. It gives us these principles that we then have to sort of wrestle with to unpack, what does this actually look like in my day-to-day life? So when it says that you're to work hard for it, it doesn't give you a list of 10 things that define what hard work is. When it's urging us that there's a responsibility we have, I think of stewardship as a very clear thing in the Bible. It's actually not legalistic in what that looks like. Most Christians would say there needs to be giving, that it's good and right to enjoy some things in this life, and that it's also wise and a good steward to save some money in case disaster strikes, in case somebody loses a job, and to have some money away in case the car breaks down, so that way you don't need to be a burden on other people. And so all of these things, but we need to wrestle through that. And so I would say, in the context of a missional community group this week, wrestle through some of these questions. Even if you're married with your spouse, to wrestle through, what does this mean? Because we still want balance, right? Like when we say work hard, we're not saying you should become a workaholic and neglect your wife and neglect your kids. Like there's balance here, but these things are present. And so there's principles that we are present in Proverbs that we need to then unpack. So that's point number one, that money matters. And let's build to the second point, Proverbs 22:1. I'm reading from the NLT. This is what it says. You can fact check me in a Bible. But choose a good reputation over great riches. Being held in high esteem is better than silver or gold. So choose a good reputation over great riches. Being held in high esteem is better than silver or gold. Here's the next verse, Proverbs 28:6. Better the poor whose walk is blameless, than the rich whose ways are perverse. And then one more. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil. Better a small serving of vegetables with love than a fattened calf with hatred. Vegetarians are confused when this passage. It's basically saying meat is better than veggies. But if you like veggies more, we love you. Just flip it, all right? Just flip it. Better some cauliflower with people you love than filet mignon with people you don't like very much. Just flip it, okay? So this builds to the second point. While money matters, money does not matter most. While money matters, money doesn't matter most. There are things that matter far more than money. A good name matters more than money. Integrity matters more than money. The fear of the Lord in your life and in your family and in your church community, it matters more than money. And at a certain point, I think there's a responsibility to people to provide for their families when possible, that there are certain things that we're not supposed to neglect. But there comes a point where you do also need to recognize that money doesn't matter more than your joy. And that has to do with this passage that we just read in verse 17. Better a small serving of vegetables with love than a fattened calf with hatred. There comes a point where your joy is actually to take precedence over your pursuit of wealth and your pursuit of money. I had a notable conversation with Jessica earlier this week. She's leading worship for us. And Jessica recently just quit her full-time job. She's with us part-time. She is making notably less money here than she was in her other vocation, but would so much rather be here, and they can swing it. It's tighter, but there's this idea of, and I did tell Jessica I was gonna share this and got permission, but there's this idea of, she's like, this is so much better for my soul to be here. Like this is so much more fulfilling for me to be here. And we've said this before in another teaching, but money can be a wonderful servant, but it makes a terrible master. It makes a terrible master. That there are people who wake up every day and money is functionally God to them. And this is true of people who have a lot and who have a little. It doesn't discriminate. So there can be wealthy people where this is the case for them. There can also be people who do not have wealth and all they want in the world is wealth, and they're thinking about money. There are also incredibly wealthy people who money is not God to them, and they're not a slave to their money. But money, while it can be a great servant, is a terrible master. And if you are devoting your life to the pursuit of money, it will let you down. There are a lot of people who have a ton of money and they are miserable. Now you can have money and be quite joyful, but when money takes the place of God in your life, it is a terrible savior. It will let you down. And so do not let money be the sun around which your life orbits. Do you understand? So work hard, get a job. But I would say even students, seriously, as you start thinking through what you want to do with the rest of your life, there are some people who are like, I'm just going to pick a career that can make the most amount of money. And I would just press you on that and say, what do you think you're supposed to do with the rest of your life? What do you think God wants you to do with the rest of your life? What will be the most fulfilling thing with the rest of your life? And if that makes you a lot of money, that's cool. Use it, enjoy it, bless other people with it. But the primary question upon which you should base your existence is not what will make me the most amount of money. Because there are people who've selected their career path based off money. They don't like the people they work with. They don't like what their company does. And the only thing they like is how much it pays them. And that's just not a cycle you want to be caught up in, all right? So money matters. It does, but it doesn't matter most. It should not be the primary factor when we make our decisions as followers of Jesus. So one final point, and we'll build to it. The generous will themselves be blessed, for they share their food with the poor. Proverbs 22:9. Proverbs 11:25. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Proverbs 28:27 says this, that those who give to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to them receive many curses. Here's the last point. If you're taking notes, write this down. Generosity is godly. Generosity is godly. Here's what the Bible presents to us. The Bible presents to us an extremely generous God. In fact, perhaps the most popular scripture that people know is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he, you can just stop for a second. Let's stop with the very next word. For God so loved the world that he gave. The next part is very important. What he give? The most precious thing to him. His son, who came to earth on a rescue mission for all humanity to reconcile people to God. That he came and bore our shame, that he bore our sin, that he took our place on the cross, died to offer us new life in Jesus so that we wouldn't have to be separated from God forever. That Jesus Is he dead or alive? You guys don't sound excited about that. Jesus dead or alive? So we believe Jesus is not dead, but that he is alive, and he offers new life to anyone who would come to him. But that was extremely costly. And he gave. In James, when we were in our series in James, it literally says that every good and perfect gift comes down from God. So do we participate in this? Yes. So I love my wife. And she is an incredible gift. I pursued her, I dated her, sought after her, but at the end of the day, I didn't make her. I didn't create her. I believe she is a gift from God. Everything that we have, that we love, your kids, your friends, the ability to run and play sports and to taste food and wine and sex and everything that you look at as like, this seems like it's a gift. I think it seems that way and should seem that way because it is. Because it is. And then here's what that is supposed to do for the followers of Jesus, that we say, we got everything. We have a God who loves us, who's adopted us into his family. We have hit the jackpot. We are loaded with blessings. And we then get the joy of being and living like him and partnering with him so that blessings don't only come to us, but that they come through us to the world. And you all have experienced this, and we have amnesia, myself included, we forget this. But do you remember a time in your life where you were just like almost exceptionally generous, and maybe it was to an individual, maybe it was to an organization that you really believed in, maybe it was with your time where you just sacrificed, but you had this feeling of like, this is the most fulfilled I felt all year? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like where you do something and it wasn't for you and it wasn't for your bank account and it didn't move the bottom line down for you, but you did it because you're like, this is right, this is good, this is beautiful. And you're like, this is the most fulfilling thing I've done all year. So it's more blessed to give than to receive. And that's not just a phrase, we actually believe that. And many of you have experienced that. Now it's great to get stuff from other people. I've been blessed and it's like, wow, what a beautiful gift. And then there's also this deep fulfillment that comes when we get to be generous people in the lives of others. And to follow Jesus is to follow a path of generosity. There really is no other way to do it. There really is no other way to do it. And so we want to be generous people, but as a pastor of a local church, I want you to be generous individually, but I want us to be generous together. I want us to be collectively generous in our community, in our world, where people look at us and scratch their heads and go, why would they do that? And then we get to say, Jesus. So we're not standing out there yelling about Jesus and they're like, there's nothing attractive about you guys, but that they see our community and they're like, they're honestly just more generous than other people. They're honestly just more gracious than other people. That I don't know if I believe everything they believe, but I can't argue with their lives and it makes me curious about what they believe, you know? And so like the Pack the Pantry event is such a beautiful example. Like where we're not gathering here, but we're gonna go next week and we're just gonna buy groceries for people who need it. It's beautiful, invite your friends. And then even just the stuff that our leadership team here is doing, we're saying, not only do we think EAC is doing some very beautiful stuff in this community, and we hope you give to EAC, and we hope you believe in us, and we wanna do things that bless you and bless our city, but we've said we also wanna be generous with the money that comes in. And so our leadership team has approved this thing that we've called 5 and 5, that over the course of 5 years, we're gonna give away 1% more a year, building up in our giving. And so for years, we gave away 10% to other organizations. If a church even needed help, we've helped another church keep their lights on before. We've supported missions and organizations and stuff in Honduras and Grace House Ministry, Pregnancy Center. And I mean, we've done a lot of giving. We've given a lot of money away. away. And we've said, hey, what if we just give away more? And so right now we're giving away 12% of every dollar that comes into our general fund. And then next year we're gonna give away 13%, and the year after that. So we're trying to grow as a collective of like, how do we give away more money? I asked our treasurer this week, I was like, how much money have we just given away this year? We've given away over $150,000 to non-EAC stuff this year already. And you've done that. And so we want to take this seriously. And I hope you understand that it's not just a pastor on a stage saying like, you need to be generous and you need to give more money away. Like Claire and I have wrestled with this and fought this, and we've been generous. And I don't need to go through our personal stuff, but like we've tried to live this out. And we've been generous in a way where we've looked at the end of our year and we're like, man, if we didn't give that much money away, but like, here's the thing. We believe we've received so much from God that the path of generosity is the best path that we could possibly walk. And we want to lean into it. Claire and I want to lean into it together. We hope you want to lean into it individually. And we want to lean into it more as a community. And we want people to be surprised. Like, what is up with those people? Why do they just keep giving stuff away? And so here's the 3 points. Generosity is godly, but here's the 3 points. I'm sorry. I'm used to the old clicker. I'm hitting the wrong button. Generosity is godly. Generous together. 3 points. Here's the 3 points. The money matters, but money doesn't matter most, and generosity is godly, all right? And Jessica's gonna come out, I think, and play a little bit. Oh, she's here. Hi, Jessica. And she's gonna play a little bit for us. And while she does, I'm just gonna lay some questions before you to answer in the privacy of your mind and your heart. And I'm gonna give you the opportunity to pray in response to some of these questions. And we're gonna take a couple minutes of silence once I finish the questions. But here's some questions to consider. Do you work hard? Should you work harder? Do you work with honesty and integrity? Are you being wise with the money that you make? Are you being intentional with that money or just reactive, just spending it however you want? Is money your servant or is it your master? Are there things that you are doing for money that are not worth it? That it's compromising relationships, maybe your physical health? And I'm not talking about providing needs for your family. I'm talking about excess money that you don't need, but you're pursuing it, and that pursuit is harming other areas in your life that are more important, maybe even your relationship with God. Are you generous? And sometimes when we talk about these things that we haven't put a lot of teeth to, as we said, Proverbs doesn't do this. So Proverbs doesn't say to be generous means you're giving away this percent of your income or this percent of your time. It doesn't do it. It just says this is a value. So we're not diving into what exactly this looks like. And I don't think there's actually a definitive biblical answer for this. I think really the Bible is just calling us to the spirit that we believe God our Father has, and that is a spirit of generosity. But I do think if we're gonna answer this question in a positive sense and say, yes, I'm generous, well, I think we need to ask this question just to ourselves this morning. Can you prove it? Like, could you go through your checkbook and your bottom line and be like, here's where I see the generosity of Jesus flowing out from me into the lives of others? I think it was C.S. Lewis, and he was just sharing this by way of a thought about generosity. He was saying, you know, Christians, they seem to be called to be generous in a way that is sacrificial, where they feel it. And he says, it's gonna look different for different people, But maybe one thing that could be true of all of us is no matter what income bracket we find ourselves in, that we're living different than people who make the same amount of money that we do. So this is applicable if you make 6 figures or 5 figures. It's this idea of, okay, am I giving in a way that it actually changes my lifestyle? The people who are making the same amount of money as me, they're spending their money in different ways than I am. And I've actually taken a lesser lifestyle than I could live because generosity is a value to me. But does any part of your financial world need to change? And listen, I want good for you. I want you to experience freedom, breakthrough, and joy. And so I don't want this to be like a guilt thing, like Connor saying this needs to change. I just think the way of Jesus leads to life, and I want that for you. And so if there's an enslavement in any way in your life right now to money, I want to see you free from that. If you're missing the joy of generosity, I want to see you enter into that. If there are some things as a follower of Jesus that you're doing that are not ethical in order to make money, I want you free from that as well. Jesus says that I've come so that they may have life and have it to the full. I believe the path of Jesus is good. It is for our joy. And that he is not only our Savior, but he's also our Lord who loves us and who knows what is best. And so if you believe God is speaking to you this morning about any area of your life, I just want to give you a moment to listen and to speak back to him right where you're at, and then I'll come back out and close us in prayer. If you're able at this time, would you stand as we close in prayer? God, I believe you've been so generous to us that every good and perfect gift comes from you. God, I thank you that you aren't a distant God, separated from the real issues of life, but that you have things to say to us that are very practical and very helpful. I pray that we would trust you enough to listen. I pray if anybody in here heard a word from you this morning, that they would lean into that word and find freedom, that we would be people who honor you by how we work, with our work ethics, with our integrity, that we would be a people who with our lives declare that money is not the most important thing, but that it's you and others that matter most. And I pray that we would be a people who not only continue in beautiful, remarkable ways receive good gifts from you, but that good gifts would flow through us into the lives of others. And I pray this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. Hey, EAC, I love you. If you're new or feel new, please come join us for the dinner upstairs, the brief lunch. And if you want to continue praying, the prayer room's open. But until next time, go be the church. Blessings.